Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to segue into writing sensitive music, because I'm not hearing a lot of that. It's really essential that you know how to do that. For me, the biggest influence in what I do is that I've actually played a lot of really sensitive music in orchestra pits as underscore in shows. When I was playing piano at Little Shop of Horrors, there would be times where I'd be playing stuff like this. Right? Playing stuff like that while somebody's talking. Right? Or in Miss Saigon, there was a bit that went. While stuff was going on, right? Just quiet, delicate underscoring, and listening to how those things were orchestrated. There's nothing like getting your hands on the music, right? A couple of weeks ago when I sequenced that bit from Bernard Herrmann's score, or when I did the James Horner Glory, there's nothing like digging in and really getting inside of it. And when you're playing and you're part of that, that's another way to get inside of something. So let's switch the view here. So this is something I did this morning in about 3 hours, and I had the basic idea of this from the demo suite that I had played for you a few weeks ago. And I added some more music to this, and then I expanded it out. So what you're going to hear right now are the MIDI, which is everything up here. And then, well, these blue tracks down here, these are audio stems that I rendered. And so we'll listen to those at the end, because this is mixed, and I did some additional arrangement work for this. So let me just play this for you. It's about 2 minutes long, and then I'll break it down and I'll show you some stuff that will help you in your own sequences. So I'll mute my mic, and here we go. what this piece does is it uses kind of an arch structure, right? And it starts off very simply, and it grows dynamically like a crescendo mark on a score. I accomplished that, and there's some other stuff going on. But let's take a look at the beginning and how I use some orchestration to help unfold this. So I can solo, let's see. Let's do this. Okay, so it starts off with this nylon string guitar right here. And this is a very simple, every guitar player knows how to play something like this. And then that's accompanied with a little answering in the harp. And then you can hear the second time through the nylon string, the articulation sounds a little bit different because I played around with the velocity and got different dynamic layers, so it's not exactly the same. So while that's going on, right, there's this very high, gentle string. Then it changes, right? The second four bars is different than the first four, even though the chords and the guitar part's the same. Then there's also filling in below that gentle strings, but a different kind of articulation. Okay, so let's just listen to the strings. So this is the first 4 bars. Okay, so in the second 4 bars over here, you see that these two are the same here as here, but then these two different, right? And this is different. So I'm heading to a texture change at measure 9. So what I've got here is an ascending line to lead us there, and then like a little a little cadence right here. Right? So the first na, na, and then na, and then down. And then now this top line ascends for 3 notes this time. Goes up again. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have studied species counterpoint, where you write note against note, then 2 notes against notes, then 4 notes against note, and then you do suspensions, and then you do mixed, right? But learning how to write textured parts like this that are just 2 or 3 notes at a time, sounding simultaneously, and having them work is a skill to work on. When you guys are studying jazz harmony, you're studying mostly 7th and thick chords and how to move things around that way. But this is a different kind of writing, and you need to have this kind of writing in your skill set, you know? So, okay. So let's listen to that. Anything else playing? Oh, there's a bass just hitting long notes. Okay, let's listen to that pattern again. And then very end, there's a celeste right here that does a harmony part just on the last couple of notes with the nylon string. Oh, solo that. Sorry, my fault. Right? So just subtle things like that, right, to lead us into the next section. Now, let's listen to this and into the next section. Then I want to talk about the change. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so think about this, right? You're seeing a show, a Broadway show. And on stage is a couple, right? And let's say that it's a man and a woman. And the scene starts where the song is, they're going to be singing about each other. They're going to be on stage at the same time, but in two different places. And then by the end of the song, they're in the same place together, right? And they're talking about how much they miss each other. So let's say that they trade verses as they're singing, and then sometimes they're singing together. So the way that you would orchestrate for the woman would be different than for the man. And because they're in different pitch registers, the timbres of their voices, and also you would take into account the backstory of the psychology of the lyrical content. So if you think about the first 4 bars as being a woman singing about something, maybe like, what am I doing here? What's happened to my life? I had this and now I'm here. And then the guy saying the next verse, the guy is saying something like, every street I walk down, I see her, I miss her, and all this stuff. And, just if you think about it in those terms, you have a story unfolding, and then the music starts to make more sense as an underscore to the content. So somebody's going to be talking over this, and you're going to be having those kinds of things to think about while somebody's talking. And now the guy will come in singing, right? Okay, so let's break down the orchestration here. So we start off, somebody's always keeping like an 8th note kind of a pace, right? So in the first 4 bars, it's the nylon string. Then I switch to an electric piano, this orange. And then while this is going on, I have a cello playing a little line here. Where's my cello? Yo, what's up with that? Hey. Huh, the cello's playing pizzicato there. Okay, so it's just playing those little notes there. There is a place where there's a cello melody here. Okay, so it's just playing the bass notes there very sensitively, right? Because there's no bass here anymore. But the other thing I did was, in this area here, I've got this articulation. Then I changed the soft to something a little different here. right? It's a different kind of playing technique. And then if we look at the notes, right, we can see that the first half is down here, and then I jump up the texture, right? I jump everything up so that it's completely different. So we've got these low notes here in the mid-range, sort of just a little bit below middle C, and then the octave below that. And then here we are, you know, in the octave between middle C and high C. So you change the texture not only with the articulation, but with the pitch register. And then there's a solo horn line in there. And then the alto flute comes in right here at measure 13. Soft. And then one other thing I did that's really cool is, does everybody know what bezbigliando is? It's a kind of a tremolo on the harp, right? So I switched the harp articulation from this. Oh, let's go back to here. Oh. Okay. So this is the harp articulation at the beginning. And then here. And that goes really nicely to add sort of a shimmer to the strings. Right? So just all these subtle things that you just delicate and subtle. You work these into your orchestrations. And then again, 4 bars later, the texture changes. We've got a little 2-measure pattern that's just soprano choir. With that high note here. And then if you're conducting, right? Like let's say I was going to conduct this. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, right? You would put a little fermata over beat 4 and then give it a little space and come in. What I find always works really well is, instead of doing a tempo change, add an extra beat. So if we look here, when we get to this measure, I change to 5/4, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. And it gives you that little extra breath there that sounds like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, right? So I've had to play figures like that constantly in all my Broadway accompaniment, when I'm accompanying singers. You're always doing stuff like that. And then I take that further so that in this next bit, it's really in 4/4, but I've got it written in 5/4. It's just like 4/4 with a fermata on beat 4, right? 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So if somebody was conducting that, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you were conducting a film orchestra, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. Right? You'd write it into the music. So let's listen to this next bit. And again, the texture's changed. I've got piano for the first time. And you notice I can talk over this and nothing gets in the way. It means they'll turn your music up more. And that's a variation on the beginning. Second time through. Now I'm in strict 4 and the rhythm gets a little bit more insistent. It's subtle. And I've doubled the piano with the Rhodes here, which is a sound I like. And then there's the choir. and then bass playing long notes, and that's it. And then now, and the other thing I did was once we get to this tempo thing right here, yeah, so I've changed the tempo in a few spots. So at the beginning it's 76, and then when we get to this 5/4 measure, it's 72, so it's a little bit more relaxed. And then when we get to this section here, where everything moves a little quicker, it's 74 beats per minute. So I would just, you'd be conducting that. You just pick it up a little bit more. You know, it's not like you're playing a funk groove here. And then now pick it up 1 beat a minute here. This is at 75. There's more activity, rhythmic activity in the keyboard parts. So there's the Rode part that's doubling the piano right here. And then there's the harp doing that. Right, with the besbigliando, but then I've got the guitar doing so that works out really nice. And then there's a long line in the violin and cello, and then there's bass notes. They're a little bit more active. The bass is going boom bum bum, boom bum bum. And then here, right, the chords and the pattern and everything changes. And so I bring the tempo down 1 beat a minute to 74, and I tacit the vocal here, and then the choir comes in here, and then the pattern here changes also. So the piano pattern is, you know, this hypnotic 8th note, 3 and 1 and 2 and... Right. And then as it gets to the end there, the rhythmic activity gradually slows down, but the tempo stays the same. So this is how you add breath and tempo dynamics, right? Tempo dynamics, I think, is a word. Linear tension. So in other words, you change, your tempo is the same, but the amount of notes per beat changes. And that gives you a different sense of pacing, speeding up, relaxing, without really changing the tempo. So, in other words, the feel from here, 4, 5, to here, to here, to here, and then now this next bit. See how that all moves with a certain kind of, thank you, Tay. It moves with a certain kind of a flow to it, right? And you can feel like a wave of time happening. And then we've got here, excuse me, another measure of 5/4, right? Because I want this to last. With just the choir, and then a little breath here. And then now that's another measure of 5/4. Now we're in 4, and we're at 70 beats a minute. And then just a little 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Okay, so let's listen to the mixed version, which will sound nicer. It's the audio here. So I did a little bit of work with balancing, and I actually muted a few things. Yeah, I muted these pizzicatos here in the cello. I didn't like them. I could see. All right, so let's take a listen. Two other points that I want to make with this is when we get to this cadence right here, don't be afraid to not have bass everywhere, because I don't have a bass on the last chord before we go back to the one. There's a bass here and no bass. And now the bass comes back in. Now, the tendency with a piece like this is to have it be sad. You know, and this is reflective, but it's also hopeful. Right? And the reason for that is, and it's very simple, and this sounds almost infantile in its simplicity, is that there are a lot of ascending elements. Right? The guitar line, the accompaniment goes up. Let me just unsolo safe these so that I can solo stuff down here. Like the accompaniment figure in the boo-da-dee, boo-da-bee, boo-da-bee, right? Up, up, up. Right? Up. Right? Up. And then down. When we get to this section here, oh, right here, this section here. Up. Up. Right? Up. It's not dee da da, dee da da. It's do da da, boo da bee. Up, up, up. That's how you get things. Seriously, it's stupid, but it works. Then over here, da do da da be, right? It does a start high and jumps down, but then it goes back up higher, right? It's lifting you up. I don't know what all that popping sound is. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention about that. All right, to make piece of music like this that's simple and hopeful, sensitive, but hopeful. So it's kind of it's difficult to write complex music, but people can write a lot of notes to make music sound complex. But can you write a few notes and have it express something, being economical? This track took me 3 hours, 2-3 hours to put together. I had the idea from the demo suite, but I still had to, expand it, and I changed it quite a bit. Changed the key, changed the tempo, added some sections that weren't there before, so the conception and the execution of this, it wasn't like I just copied and pasted. I put a lot of new stuff in there. Okay, class is actually going to go a little bit longer than I thought it was, so because I do have more stuff to talk about. Any questions on that? About the strings library. Okay, so obviously I'm using expensive samples here, but you're just going to have to make do with what you've got, and when you get jobs, put away some money to update it. So I'm using Spitfire Albion 5 Tundra for these gypsy strings, these things here. Let's see. Well, it's the high-pitched ones. And then I've got also the same library I'm using. Oh, I'm using the Solstice, which is another Albion from Spitfire for the flautando and the sultasto. So let's see. That's these strings here. So the very high thing is that sort of gypsy-ish kind of sound. And then flautando is the lower ones. And that's a flute-like sound, the flautando. And then when it switches in the next 4 to sultasto, that's similar, but with the bow goes over the fingerboard of the violin, which is very similar to if you're playing your guitar, right, and you pick down here. See the timbre difference? So if you're bowing over here, it's going to have one thing, but if you bow over the fingerboard, it's going to be a rounder sound. And that's what sultasto is. Okay, so if anybody wants a recommendation, the Spitfire Chamber Strings is a really good starter library. If you can get that on sale, I would recommend that. It's got tons of articulations when you go into the individual articulations folders. It's not big and epic, right? It's a chamber ensemble, but I end up using that more than any other string library I have. I think it's very good. I don't think it's perfect. I wish the legatos were better, but I think it's very good. It's a very good library, and I use it often. It lets me write divisi parts also without it sounding like too many people. Okay, so let's move on.